Yeah, Wen, I'm not sure that 3 years ago we would have been having this conversation about Medicare for all.
We absolutely would not. It was not on anyone's, well, actually it was on a radar screen of some people, but actually Bernie Sanders is the one who made it possible for Democrats to really start talking about Medicare for all. Back in 2009 and 2010, when we had the last debate on health care reform, members of Congress wouldn't even give Medicare for all a hearing. It just was something that was really not discussed in any meaningful way. But now it is.
And because of that, there's going to be a lot of pushback from interests that don't want to see this go through, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Joy, we are about to see, in fact, it's already begun, the mother of all propaganda campaigns is being unleashed out of a propaganda shop in Washington, D.C. And the organization that is behind this, the name of it is the Partnership for America's Healthcare Future. Sounds great, doesn't it?
I trust them.
And you trust them because it comes right out of the middle of downtown D.C. So that's even more reason to trust them, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, the partnership, it has come together, and it's a place for the big entrenched special interests to pool all of special interests in healthcare, to pool all of their resources to wage a campaign against Medicare for all. There's a lot of fear and loathing going on in boardrooms in the insurance industry and the pharmaceutical industry, big hospital companies. They're beginning to think that this may get some traction. By this, I mean Medicare for all, because we've never seen anything quite like this. Just a few days ago, Kamala Harris announced her candidacy for the presidency, or for the nomination, the Democratic nomination, and Medicare for all is one of her campaign promises.
And the idea is that everyone gets access to medical care. And you don't have to go through the process of going through an insurance company, having them give you approval, going through the paperwork, all of the delay that may require. Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on.
And Bernie Sanders has said it many, many times, and Elizabeth Warren is for it. In fact, just about every one of the Democrats who is making noise about running for president, this is part of their platform.
Yeah, and even Barack, who's like Mr. Affordable Care Act, he said a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago, I forget, that single payer was going to be just inevitable.
And he's absolutely right. What this partnership is trying to do is to keep the current system going for as long as it possibly can. And that is because that's what shareholders want. They want to make money. They want to see how these companies do quarter to quarter. Every 3 months, it's all about making money. So as long as they can keep the current system going, shareholders are happy. But like Obama said, it's inevitable. The current system is just simply not sustainable because you've got employers, most of us do get our coverage through the workplace, but more and more it's becoming unaffordable and less valuable. And more people are becoming uninsured again. Increasing numbers of us are underinsured. But the insurance industry in particular doesn't want the status quo to be changed. And so they're I guess they're kind of the ringleaders of this outfit, the partnership.
And before we keep going, Wendell, I'm sure that there's some people that are rolling their eyes or flicking off the show because they think this is just the next liberal thing. But I need you to remind people that this is the fiscally responsible thing to do for our country. We won't make the whole show about this, but I think people need to just be reminded.
Well, Warren Buffett has, and he's not identified as any raging liberal, has said that the American healthcare system is the tapeworm that is destroying American competitiveness. And what he means by that is that the current system does not control healthcare costs. Not only does it not get all of us covered, there are about 30 million of us now, once again, who have no insurance. But the current system is just letting the cost of healthcare costs continue to go through the roof, whether you're talking about a stay in the hospital or picking up your drugs at the pharmacy. We just are increasingly not able to afford our healthcare system. So that's one thing. The main reason for that is that the insurance industry has sold us a bill of goods over the years. They've told us that they can control healthcare costs, but they don't. And having worked inside the insurance industry industry for 20 years, I can tell you that they don't really want to, because the more healthcare costs go up, the more they can demand in premiums. And that's what they've been doing for years and years and years. That brings in more revenue and more money to convert to profits for the shareholders. So there are some real winners in the current system, and they are the executives of the companies like the ones I used to work for, and the shareholders who have a lot of money to start with. They're getting richer and richer every time these companies turn into good profit. But for the rest of us, it's just not working, and it's unsustainable. We can't keep going like this. Most of us get our coverage to the workplace, and employers are increasingly having to saddle the rest of us with higher premiums and make us pay more out of our own pocket for health care, even if we have insurance. But more and more Republicans are beginning to come around to understand this. In fact, when polls have been done asking Americans, what do you think of a system, a Medicare for all type system, a majority of Republicans support it. So this is not something that's just a left-wing thing by any means. A lot of Republicans are recognizing that the current system is not serving any of us well, except, again, the very wealthiest among us.
Right. And the way we win this is by combating this PR.
Exactly. The propaganda campaign is to keep the status quo as long as possible. And you've got the trade associations for the big health insurance companies, the big pharmaceutical companies, the for-profit hospitals, and a bunch of other entrenched special interests that have come together. And there's no real there, Joey. There's no place where this organization exists except in the offices of a PR shop in Washington, D.C. called Blue Engine Media.
Which is like, to me, when we say draining the swamp and like going after the monsters in the water and the muck, like this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is exactly what everyone hates.
It's exactly what everyone hates, and this is something to hate even more if you are a Democrat. Blue Engine Media is a Democratic firm, or it purports to be a Democratic firm. And the guy who founded it is this guy named Eric Smith, and he's been quoted as the spokesperson for this partnership. They're based on Connecticut Avenue, right there in the K Street corridor in Washington, D.C., where all this propaganda is cooked up and disseminated. And he's been out there representing this organization and making people think that there's something there that we should believe. They've just released, by the way, their first video. They came into existence, or at least the word of it came in. Word started getting out back in June of last year that they existed, or that this money was being pooled to start this ad hoc coalition. And they clearly were doing some work kind of behind the scenes until now. And now they're going a bit more public. When I say behind the scenes, one of the things that they were doing was reaching out to candidates for public office who were running in this last election, the 2018 election, and trying to persuade as many Democrats as possible not to run on Medicare for all.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and like I said, now that they're going more public, and the reason they're doing it now is because now that the Democrats are controlling the House of Representatives, there are going to be hearings for the first time on Medicare for all, for the very first time. And a lot of those Democrats, despite what Blue Engine Media was trying to do, that campaigned on Medicare for all, they were elected. So there are even more members of Congress now, at least on the House side, who have advocated for Medicare for all. So there will be hearings. And this is even scarier for the industry than ever before. So they're rolling out this campaign to try to intimidate lawmakers and to try to make sure that they distance themselves as best they can from Medicare for all. I used to do this for a living, Joy. That's what I used to do when I worked in the insurance industry. I've worked with coalitions exactly like this in years past. So I know exactly what they're trying to do and how they're going to be carrying this campaign out. It's based on what we referred to in the past as FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And the campaign is based entirely on talking points that are designed to make people fear Medicare for all, be uncertain about it, and doubt that whoever is supporting it is doing it in their best interest.
And I'm not just saying this because, we're filming a podcast right now, but I don't think I fully grasped before, like, how much is at stake for these guys. Like, they will lose so much of their power if this goes through. So if they're anything like me, like, I would be fighting tooth and nail to make sure that this doesn't happen. Which to me is making me realize how, like, guns blazing we really do have to be combating this stuff.
Yeah. The insurance industry and the pharmaceutical industry, these companies who are part of these industries, they make a lot of money, a lot of money. Healthcare now comprises almost 20% of our gross domestic product, far, far more than any other country in the world. And that's because, again, prices keep going up. Healthcare is becoming increasingly unaffordable for a lot of folks. These guys are making out like gangbusters. They still are, at least for now. But as I said, it can't keep going on like this forever, but it can go on for long enough for more and more of us to be uninsured, more and more of us to be able to not afford to go to the doctor or get the care that we need, even pick up our prescriptions. So the partnership wants to keep, again, the status quo as long as possible. The rest of us be damned.
And they're really good at what they do, because you go to their website and you see, this really nice looking woman talking to a nurse. You go to this next page, you have the cutest kid you've ever seen. You have words like quality and access and affordability and all these things on their site.
Yeah.
All these words that, to me, like ping good, they're all full of crap.
It's full of crap. And for another episode, we'll kind of destruct it. We'll look at the words that they're using, the talking points they're using.
Yeah, and y'all should check out their website. It's americashealthcarefuture.org.
Yeah, go check that out to see what a propaganda shop actually looks like. And you'll be hard-pressed, I bet you, to find an actual address for the partnership or a phone number. You might be able to contact them to express your point of view, I don't know. But like I said, there's no real there for these outfits like this. It's similar, Joey, to an outfit that I was a part of just the year before I left Cigna. The name of the coalition at that point was called Healthcare America. And my first involvement with it came to be when Michael Moore was releasing his movie Sicko. And we were afraid of Michael Moore, we being those of us in the insurance industry. And so we put together a similar coalition to scare people away from a movie, Joey, because we were afraid that people would see that movie and say they wanted to have a good healthcare system like Canada does, or France. And so the propaganda campaign was designed to scare people away, to call what Michael Moore was espousing a government takeover of healthcare. I bet you've never heard that expression before.
Not once.
And to make people think that Michael Moore was out of step with American values. And the other thing that was a part of this campaign, that was behind the scenes, that I was privy to, was that we were having our lobbyists go on Capitol Hill and tell Democrats that do not embrace Michael Moore and this movie because, we've written you some campaign checks. And if you get anywhere close to this movie or endorsing it, you can expect those campaign checks to stop. And we just very well might write a check to the person who's going to be running against you. We might even find someone to run against you next time. So that's the kind of intimidation that goes on behind the scenes. So they have this public front with videos like this that you'll see and say, well, that makes a lot of sense. I agree with that, without realizing what they're doing to you psychologically. And then behind the scenes, they've got this intimidation campaign going on Capitol Hill to scare the bejesus out of Democrats. And that's part of the strategy. That's why they hired Blue Engine Media, because Blue Engine Media in the past has worked for Democrats or worked for so-called liberal causes or organizations that are considered more or less left of center. But here's the other thing. Blue Engine Media has just recently merged with another outfit called JDA Associates. and they say they're going to change their name. But right now, if you look at go look at Blue Engine Media, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It says Blue Engine Media plus JDA Associates. Well, JDA Associates is just kind of the maybe the mirror image or the opposite of what Blue Engine was. It's the red engine, if you will. It has been an outfit that has been around for some years to wage propaganda campaigns from the right. So these guys are joining forces.
Yeah, they must be pretty scared if they're joining forces.
Undoubtedly they are. But this is another way to bring in boatloads of money from groups that are scared. They're going to be, it's hard to say how much money that they will spend, but you can rest assured that the big entrenched special interests will try to spend whatever it takes to keep Medicare for All from happening.
What are the concrete things that they're going to do? What are the day-to-day actions that we're going to see from these people? What is it like? What is it like in these PR offices making this whole machine run?
I can tell you what they're doing. There's a team that's been set aside within these firms, or this combined firm, and they've developed a strategy, which is one thing going from them. So what I've found working with advocacy groups is most advocacy groups don't really understand a strategy, and they don't understand how to deploy them. But But rest assured, these guys at Blue Engine Media and JDA, they know all that. They know exactly what they're doing. They put together a bunch of tactics as part of this overall strategy. The overall objective, by the way, there are two objectives. And this I was able to come across this from reading a good story that was done about the partnership just before the end of the year by The Intercept. And the reporter found some documents that were leaked to him. But the objectives of this outfit, the partnership, is to change the national conversation around single-payer / Medicare for All. That's objective number one. Number two is to minimize the potential for this option in healthcare reform from becoming part of a national political party's platform in 2020. And of course, that would be the Democratic Party's platform. Now, here's another thing about Eric Smith, who founded Blue Engine Media. He was head of communications for the Democratic National Committee, Convention Committee, the convention that was here in Philadelphia back in 2016. So he's tied into the movers and shakers, the big wigs in the Democratic Party. So that's why they went to Blue Engine Media, because of Eric Smith and his connections on Capitol Hill. Eric used to work on Capitol Hill. He worked in the Obama campaign. He goes way back working for Democrats. So he was the perfect guy for these guys to go after.
These are the people that really make me want to take a shower.
Well, I think really. It might be time for the whole country to take a shower after this is over. So you mentioned what kind of tactics what they will be doing things that they've always done. The tactics are similar. They just kind of refresh them for the current age. Back in the 90s, and I was part of this as well too, the insurance industry was afraid of, and so was the pharmaceutical industry for that matter, but everybody was afraid of what the Clintons were cooking up with their healthcare reform plan. So the campaign that we developed back then was one that featured this couple called Harry and Louise, that were always sitting around their kitchen table talking about what they were hearing about the Clinton plan and wringing their hands with worry about what was going to be happening if the Clinton plan was enacted.
Having choices we don't like is no choice at all.
If they choose,
we lose.
It was perfect for the time because everybody watched TV. Now people don't watch TV as much, so just relying solely on TV is not going to work for them. So much of what they will do now will be internet and social media based. One thing I might mention is that you're not seeing very much in the mainstream media about this partnership. If you read reports like from The Hill, which is a newspaper that circulates on Capitol Hill, or read something like Healthcare Analytics, which I'm sure everybody in the world reads, you probably don't know about this partnership. So it's really going to be important for you and me, Joy, to keep the public apprised of what this partnership is going to be doing. And so over time, we'll be doing other reports about what this partnership is up to, exposing some of their tactics and helping people to understand what their talking points are going to be. I think one of the things that I feel that's important for me to do as part of this ongoing thing that I'm doing of making amends for what I used to do for a living is helping people understand how we're all misled and how propaganda works and how we are made to think and do and act and vote in ways that somebody else wants us to. And that's exactly what's going on here. The partnership wants to get voters to turn away from Medicare for All if they support it right now. And we need to help people understand what's going on.